All right. We live now. It's 10:20 p.m. And today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different subjects. Um, Amar,
What's going on, everyone? This is a marvelous. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Hip Hop Vegan, for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
nice. Let's get into Donald Trump first, because Donald Trump been controversial the last couple of years. And I was reading an article, and one of the smartest dudes, the dude from England, the guy who was in the wheelchair, I forgot his name, but he called Donald Trump a demagogue. And and what you think about that? Do you think Donald Trump just does all this just for show or for play, even though in the political section, or is he just marketing something, or what's the deal with Donald Trump?
Well, what did he call him? You broke up when you said it.
He called him a demagogue.
Wow. Okay. Well, let me say this. Me, I deal with astrology, so based on that, I would say that this definitely is him all day. I don't think it's an act. I don't think it's a show. I think this is purely him. He's built like that. Everything he says, the audacity, astrologically, this is 100% him. No fronting, none of that.
So what gives him like the balls just to say whatever he that comes up to his mind? Whoever. I never seen like a political race where you have candidates who diss each other the way they do now. Like before, when they diss each other, it would be a little bit more, kind of like how you say, like politically correct. But he does his own thing. Why do you think he comes out the way he does?
Uh, uh, Before I get into the astrology part, I think he does it because it's never been a time in history where this has been this kind of election. You have a Caucasian male, you have a woman, and you have a Jewish person that's left in the race. That's never happened to my knowledge in the history of this country being established as the 50 states of the union. That's one. Second, the circumstances that we have now, it kind of calls for that kind of audacity. It calls for someone to be so truthful that it's almost beyond belief.
Now is
It
Donald?
has to happen because people. What
Go
happened?
ahead. No, go ahead. You can
No,
go.
no, I said
I
that
said, go ahead.
no, I said that Donald Trump. Look, all right, we came from George Bush 2 terms, Barack Obama 2 terms. And it's safe to say that there's a large amount of people that's been dissatisfied from both of them. One was Republican, one was Democrat. Both ran the budget up more than any other president in the history of America. So, both came after a crash, both of them. And you could say that both caused the crash during their administration. So whoever's going to be next has to be bold and has to say and do daring things. And that's what's happening in this election. And Trump is the person to do it because he's not financed by anybody but himself. So
Now, do you think he's gonna? Do you think he have a chance to win? I mean, because he really don't got no political background. He's just a good businessman. Well, supposedly a good businessman, depending on what your ideology is about him. But do you think he's gonna win?
I think he has a strong chance to win, but I think Hillary's going to win. Definitely.
And why do you think that?
A few reasons. I think because, like in the video I did before, it's time for things that have to happen. Change has to come through women. That's just going to be the next phase that we're going into. Plus, everyone's going on hope from Obama. So the next face is the underdog, and it can't be a white male after George Bush. So it has to be through a woman. If you look at TV, if you look at everything that's happening, women are going to be the next ones to rise and push agendas, and everything's going to go through them. That's one reason. Plus, they've already had a lot of TV shows preparing you for women to be president. Second reason is the fact that Trump, even though he is a bloodline, he's still and a person that's self-financed can't really be controlled. You know what I mean? His interest is himself. So that's not a controllable thing you can have around any country. If you look at the list of these countries, the ones that are labeled as bad are the ones that are self-sufficient from anyone else. So this world doesn't like self-sufficient leaders. They like leaders that are a part of the program and can get along with other leaders so they can push a unified agenda, not an independent one.
Now, do you think you brought up the astrology? What's your take on the astrology aspect of Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is a Gemini, first and foremost. So anytime you see him in the media, dodge questions, switch subjects, that's pure Gemini energy right there. Anytime you're dealing with Gemini, you're dealing with communication. So they have an ability to kind of sidestep and answer so eloquently and say nothing. And that's what he does. Plus, he has Moon in Sag, which allows him to be so blunt and sarcastic that you don't know whether to laugh or to say that's messed up. And he also has Mars in Leo, which is the same thing that someone like 50 Cent has. And people that have those placements, they're so audacious and bold that they welcome conflict and they're chauvinists. So between those placements, he has no choice but to speak his mind, be sarcastic, and do bold things and get away with it. That's just in his nature, more so than most people.
Now, is Donald Trump racist?
Is he racist? That's something that would have to be down to obviously his personal opinion. I haven't seen anything that I can technically prove that he's racist. I would only have to use my instincts if I would say that. I would say he has racist tendencies, but I can't say he's racist and really prove it.
Yeah. I completely understand. Now, do you think Donald Trump would be a better president than Hillary, since Hillary, since time has just been lying and lying and lying, even with her husband is a known liar? Do you think picking the lesser of two evils, you think Donald Trump will be the lesser of two evils?
I hate to, well, being that I don't vote, but I would say, yeah, I think he'd be better, because I think at least business-wise, he'd be better. We already know Hillary Clinton is deceptive, Scorpio. We already see what the Clintons did in their administration. So I think Trump would be better president for the simple fact that we make more money and we know where we stand. He gets in trouble quicker, but at least there'll be no deception.
All right, since I really hate politics, so to end it with the Donald Trump, who's going to win? You say Hillary's going to win?
Hillary's going to win.
I would have to say Donald Trump is going to win.
Okay.
So I think they're going to have, I don't know if he's going to run as Republican or run as his own party, but I think Donald Trump has it.
Donald Trump is the hope of white males, so he has a strong chance.
Yeah, that's what I believe. But enough about that. Troy Ave, man, it's been all over the news. You seen his videos, him shooting. There's a couple of videos. There's a couple of videos I seen on Troy Ave that he didn't shoot himself. Somebody shot him. He didn't shoot his bodyguard. Somebody else shot him because they say ballistics doesn't match. What's your take, since you live in New York right now? What's your take on that whole situation?
Wow. All right, to be objective, I would think that Troy Ave he was probably caught up in a situation where he possibly felt he had no choice. Because if you know that the dude allegedly Tax Stone is the person that he had beef with, I don't know. I wasn't back there.
Yeah.
But, if that's the case, he probably reacted out of self-defense, if anything, for him to pull out a gun with cameras and be and black out so much that he completely forgets his surroundings. So, I mean, I'm going on self-defense for now. I'm not going to say that he started it and it was completely him.
Why do you think Troy Ave is hated so much? I mean, you watch his interviews, people, uh, out of all the rappers out in New York, I think he gets so much hate. I think the way he comes out, his interviews, they say he's too arrogant, but he's like one of the most hated rappers I've seen coming out of New York in a long time. Like, no matter what he does or what he say, he just hated so much. Why do you think somebody like Troy Ave, who when I watch his interviews and stuff like that, he's confident about his music, he's confident about himself. Why do you think he's so hated in New York?
You know what? I had to ask myself that question because whenever I got vibes about him, I say, you know what? Let me be objective and let me rewatch the videos. And in watching the videos, I'm like, yo, the more I watch videos of him, this dude surprised me. He dude is mad confident. He came from nothing. He believes in himself. And I'm like, yo, this dude is official. You know what I mean? But if I had to pinpoint it, I would give it two things. The first thing I would have to say is just when you ride in with him, you're like, yo, this dude is official. He goes off in left field and starts calling people weirdos and shit. You know what I mean? And I think to me, that might be the biggest thing that takes away from his confidence is the fact that he's organically hating on people he deems as weirdos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that rubs people the wrong way, especially in this age where I don't care who it is, Troy Ave. If you try to fight it, this isn't the time frame for um the shit is played and is dead. You know what I'm saying? If you're not adding a certain upliftment or some other motif or theme to the hood shit, and you strictly hood, your shit is done. You're outnumbered. You know what I mean? And everyone that's hood realizes that. So I think that's what it is. He's going against the tide now. It's the revenge of the nerds, and it's the nerds' time, and you can't fight it. Kanye ushered it in, and the Kanye generation had children with the Kendricks, and you can't fight that. The only thing you could do is offer the street shit with something else that's redeemable that can uplift people. If it's just hood shit, your time is done. Whoever fights it, you're gonna be in a situation like Troy Ave. So that's one. The weirdo shit and the fact that he's fighting a tide where the nerds are in control.
Now, recently, him and another New York rapper, Joey Badass. What Joey Badass sounds like he should have came out in the '90s. The way his music sound right now. And Troy Ave had a song dissing one of Joey Badass partners who committed suicide. So when they were having beef, Troy Ave actually made a song and actually dissed him committing suicide. Like, do you think karma has something to do with that?
100%, 100%.
I
I
think,
mean,
I know when it comes to battle rap and stuff like that, people go, across the line. But I think talking about somebody who committed suicide and talking about somebody's dead partner, I think that's overboard. And I really think that's a bad situation for him to talk about somebody who passed away, especially somebody who committed suicide.
I agree. I mean, I'm split on it. I mean, there's half of me that's like, yo, it's a battle. So there's like, I mean, you had Jay-Z talking about, sleeping with Nas's baby mother. Like, that shit is flagrant. But so there's no limits when it comes to shit like that. So on one end, I have to say there's no rules. But on the other end, you could see what that got him. It got Styles P, approaching
Yeah,
him. Like, yo, I got a child that killed himself, and you got Mano, someone close to him, same thing. You got street dudes checking you on something more than once. That's an indicator. And when you say I don't give a fuck, and you don't show remorse, all of that's karma, you know. But when you keep talking the street shit without any redeemable type of value, that's also what happens. If you look at everybody that talks street, after a while, they got other subject matters that kind of balance that out, where it softens their karma, and he doesn't have that, you know. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
Do you think Troy Ave is going to do time? I believe. I think the attempted murder charge and the murder charge is going to be dropped. But I also believe since it's New York and the gun laws suck in New York, you know you can't even talk about a gun and they might lock you up. Do you think he's gonna get some time? I believe he's gonna get like 4 or 5 years just for shooting the gun, even if it was self defense.
I thought that too, you know. But watching his videos, he might pull this off. But New York is so horrible, like you said, with gun laws. I mean, they got plexical barriers for, you know,
Shooting
shooting
himself,
himself. So
fucking ridiculous.
they definitely gonna make an example of this dude, hands down. They, you know, the state, the city, they got a victory, you know, with Bobby Shmurda and his people. So you know they rejoicing off that, and this is like a cherry on top to have this happen. So they definitely gonna make an example. And we going into a presidential election. Forget about it.
Yeah, I think Troy Ave decided to defend himself at the wrong time and in the wrong year. I think if it was 2 years ago when the election wasn't happening, I think he would have had a better chance. But I still think he's going to do some time. And even though Troy Ave, I like some of his music. I downloaded his mixtape a while back. He also did billboards in New York for Puff Daddy with the Sean Diddy line. And he's just a hated rapper, man. He's somebody like you love to. I don't know why people hate him. He's just a hated rapper. But New
He's
York is filled with haters too. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm a hater, you know what I'm saying? I'm even guilty of that. But that's why I had to step back and say, all right, let me rewatch the videos and the dude is thorough, you know what I mean? But you can't you can't beat this weirdo vibe, as he calls it. This it's the revenge of the nerds, you know, it's their time. And if you don't know how to be street and yourself and merge other type of subjects in your rhymes, you can forget it. I don't care how thorough you are, you're gonna be outnumbered. And that's why Jay-Z is the best, because he's him and then possibly Nas are the only ones that can be themselves, street cred, and still give the nerds a home. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's what New Yorkers' problem are. They're so committed to the streets that shit like this happens. You know what I mean? It ain't the place for that. You got to learn how to weave in and out of both of these worlds, or you're gonna be done.
So
That's just a fact.
so to end it with Troy Ave, you think he's gonna get time or no time?
I think he'll get time, definitely. Little Wayne got time. Everybody gets time in New York with guns.
So now let's talk about Taxstone, man. I believe Taxstone. I understand where he's coming from with his podcast and stuff like that, but I also think he's trying to be too hood with the podcast. Like he's the baddest person, and I think he's messing it up for a lot of people in hip hop because I think he causes a lot of drama and does it on purpose. If you watch another side of the video when they're in one of his VIP rooms, he's actually running away and hiding behind one of the bouncers or one of his friends. I don't know who he is, but he actually is running behind one of his friends and trying to use his friend as a shield. So I think that was kind of stupid shit, coming from him. Even though every time on his podcast he talks like he's the baddest. It don't matter who it is. He'll shoot out guns, fight, whatever. What's your opinion about Taxstone?
But you see, shit like that, man. All this excessive hood shit for no reason. You know what I mean? You got a podcast that got buzz and you starting beef with it. I was looking at the Cameron response. I was looking at the Math Hoffa response. This dude is going after everybody. And again, that's why his podcast won't last, in my opinion. And it doesn't work.
Now, I think this podcast would last because people love drama and drama sells. But I also think somebody's gonna do something harmful to him physically, or something like that is gonna happen to him, because he brings it onto himself. You know, he talks a lot of the gangster stuff, and I think his podcast would last because people love to see drama, but I just think that something detrimental is going to happen to him, as far as maybe somebody getting shot, and something to that extent.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You look, New York is not the place where you can continually pop off for no apparent reason. He's from the Charlemagne crowd. You know, they got a podcast together or something like that. You can't do that in New York. You did it at Troy Ave, Cameron, Math Hoffa. It's only a matter of time. New York is so small, especially when you in the industry, that that's not gonna last. Somebody's gonna catch up to you.
Now,
And
when it comes to Charlemagne, I think Charlemagne does respectful hating,
he does.
but he doesn't do the tough man thing. He even says it. He doesn't do the tough man. Like, if they come to me, I'm going to beat them up, this and that. He said, if they touch me, I'm going to sue. So I think Taxstone is more of a bully type, tough man person, and then Charlemagne the God just he does it to bring in ratings, but I also think he's genuine about his hate.
And that's why he gets away with it. You know, that's why people accept him. The tax stone thing, he's taking the wrong approach
Yeah,
because someone's gonna check you in New York. Period. You're dealing with the wrong people, man.
people think New York is soft. People think New York just turns soft, but I still think you still can't talk about people in New York, and people are gonna check you in New York. Why do you think people keep disrespecting New York like it's still soft, or people from New York can't really do shit?
It's funny you said that because I was looking at the Drink Champs with Too Short, and he mentioned E40, and I was looking up old E40 albums.
Hmm.
I came across a song, and the first track it said Rasheed Wallace and AZ diss. Now I didn't know E40 had an AZ diss, but
Hmm.
my first thought is like, damn, AZ never responded to my knowledge. So I was like, I think a lot of reasons why people think that is because real New Yorkers don't really go about the talk. You know what I mean? They don't go about the talk. And a lot of people outside of New York, they only talk the shit when they're not in New York. You know what I mean? But when
Yeah,
they're in New York, it's a whole different story. So I think that's the case, is that New Yorkers don't go out of town and talk. Things are dealt with randomly, out of nowhere, something happens. So I think that's the case, is that New Yorkers, they're not petty like that. They'll let a few things slide until it gets real serious because they know the consequence. But that came from the South. You know, a lot of South people threw their shots. That came from the West. Ice Cube and them threw their shots. You know, but New Yorkers factor in casualties and they only deal with shit that's real serious, not words.
yeah. So do you think what do you think is gonna happen with the whole tax stone situation? You think like you said, you think his podcast is not gonna last? Do you think what's your thoughts about him anyways in the long run? I just in your opinion, like, what's his motive, and do you think he will survive if he keeps doing what he's doing?
Um, I think he's one of those people that's still trapped in that whole '90s thing, and that's where I think Troy Ave, he's kind of like that, restoring the feeling and all that. You can't restore the feeling; it's impossible. Hip hop will never be the same as it was in the '90s. The environment won't be there. For that to happen, you have to have a backdrop of crime and drugs. And I think people like Tax Stone, they still want to relive that, you know, because a lot of these people, they wasn't really on like that before. Now they got platforms, so they try to restore their gangster. They're not adjusting to this nerd shit. And whoever don't adjust, they're not gonna make it, you know?
So
Tax Stone is not learning from Jay-Z. Jay-Z knows how to bring everyone in equally and still keep himself credible in the streets. Tax Stone won't last because you can't talk about all these New Yorkers and expect to get away from it. Miss you once with Troy Ave, but I promise you he's gonna get caught up with. I promise you that. Promise you.
So Taxstone, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Oh, thumbs down.
Thumbs
I
down on Taxstone.
appreciate it. He has the wackest podcast.
Oh, you don't like his podcast?
Hell no. I was listening to the one with him and Uncle Murder. I couldn't even get through that shit. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's no redeemable value. You want to be hard 24/7? That shit is whack. You know what I'm saying? That shit is whack. All this hard shit, but they never go after the real targets. Fuck that.
Yeah, I can never watch the whole hour of his podcast. I can watch bits and pieces of different situations, like him dealing with Cameron and him dealing with the battle rapper that you brought up not too long ago. Even with the Troy Ave situations, I can only watch bits and pieces of his podcast. But yeah, I think he won't. I don't think he will last too long. I think he's a good person just to watch for 5 minutes, and after that, you can only watch tough man shit for so long, you know.
That shit is played out, man. That shit had died. Shit died in '96, man. 90. Worst case, it died when Kanye came out. Kanye, the birth of Kanye was the death of all this super hood shit.
Yeah.
Period. It's dead. If you want to stay on this hood shit, your money's gonna get capped. You gotta adjust to the new culture, or you're gonna be plateaued. Taxstone, this shit is whack.
Yeah, I
It's
think
whack.
too much negative information. Even with the South, if you hear more South music now, it's more of it's getting back to more of a party type music, you know. But even though with hood beats and stuff like that, but more party uh talking about a little bit more with drugs also. But I think it's coming to a point where it's more partying and women. So I think it's getting to a better situation in my opinion.
I mean, I hope so. People look, and I'm not even talking about personal bias. If you want to talk about album sales, right? Um, and money, the richest people in rap, they don't stay on that super hood shit. You know what I mean? At all. And you gotta at some point you gotta have other subjects in your hood shit. That's the point of the hood. When you listen to Nas, Eric B and Rakim, EPMD, or whoever we label as hood, even Ice Cube, they had other themes in their music, you know, because the streets is more than just me killing you. It's a whole bunch of shit. Drug dealers. It's because of drug dealers we started studying. You know what I mean? So that's what's missing. That's what even in the South, the best rap groups is what? They taught you something. Ghetto Boys, um, Dungeon Family. It never fails, man. If you're not doing that, it's a wrap. You got to get back to that. You have to.
So yeah, I think music is changing, and yeah. Well, I wanted another piece I wanted to talk about. Since you're in real estate in New York, I want to, you know, put the business side of New York right now. I know you've been in the real estate game for a while now. You're a realtor in New York. Just let the people know what your information and where you work at, and if anybody needs some rentals in New York, he can help you find one. But just let them know your qualifications in real estate in New York.
Um, well, I'm a real estate broker in New York. I work currently with Rapid Realty. I am a I help build the offices up for Rapid Realty. That's what I do when a new franchise is purchased for the company. They call me in to build it up, make it profitable, and then I move on to the next. So I do that in addition to selling houses and renting apartments. Outside of that, I also help people out of foreclosure. So anyone in foreclosure, you know, I assist with that. I consult. I don't do foreclosure defense, for the record. I just have conversations, so that's pretty much it. Credit repair, I do that. So, that's pretty much mostly what I do. Internet marketing as well.
How's the real estate market now in New York?
Oh, this is going to collapse. So
I
that's
think
what I'm preparing for. This whole thing is going to crumble. So I suggest if you're in the New York area, stay put for another year. Hold off to maybe October. I think it's going to collapse before Christmas. And then they'll be throwing apartments at you dirt cheap. You'll snatch up homes. So, buckle your seatbelt. This whole wave nationwide is going to fall down worse than it did before.
Uh, what makes you say that? I don't think it's gonna fall like it did in 2007, 2008, but I think it's gonna. The real estate market has to, how you say it, it has to level itself out because here in Florida, the real estate market is moving so fast. You put a house on the market in 2 or 3 days and it sells. The seller's market right now is ridiculous. You try to show somebody a house. If they don't put an offer right then, most 99.9% the house is not going to be there 2 days later. I think it has to correct itself, but I don't see a drastic drop like 2008, 2007. But I do believe it's gonna drop. But I just don't think it's gonna be that detrimental, in my
Oh,
opinion.
this. In fact, this is going to be so bad. It's going to happen even outside the U.S. I don't even know where to begin. The situation now is in fact the 2008 one, in my opinion, is just that was the baby compared to what's going to happen. I posted on my Facebook right now in Bedford-Stuyvesant in 2012. Only less than 2% of the homes were $1 million. In 4 years, it's 56% of the homes in Bedford-Stuyvesant are $1 million plus. But yet the incomes aren't increasing. And in fact, wages have decreased. The only place in New York City in the 5 boroughs where wages increased is Manhattan. So how is it that you have a surge in real estate, but people are getting broker? That's symptoms.
Now I know you posted up another article about I don't know if it's a general or it's an article that you posted about Jewish having the most Section 8 in a certain neighborhood, or is it the whole New York?
Yeah, so the Hasidic Jews have the most Section 8 in New York City. And that's in where I live at in Williamsburg, arguably the capital of where Jewish people live in the whole country, maybe only rivaling from Crown Heights. So yeah, that article, man, is it's interesting.
Do you think they're doing fraud? Because everywhere you go, you say Jewish people always have money. Is it a fraud thing? You think they just milking the system,
All
or
day, 100%.
they milking the system?
Milking the system. In fact, what I started doing since I dropped my other video, I'm slowly starting to make simple blueprints to kind of capitalize off the finance where I live at and then help others do that the same. Actually, tomorrow I have a community board meeting. But as I was researching more after I posted that article, I noticed that Jewish people have an organization, and they had started this since 1966. I had no clue. And this organization is purely designed to get people food stamps, Section 8, pretty much all city government subsidies that's offered. The fraud comes in because in New York, you have to follow certain practices when you advertise an apartment. And you can't discriminate. And a lot of times what these Jewish people do, especially in the Hasidic community, is they will advertise the apartments in Yiddish. And that's against the law because it's a violation of the Fair Housing Act. You're
Yeah.
supposed to give everyone an equal opportunity to rent the apartment. So the problem is the reason why they can't prove it's fraud is because they can't track who calls. So they can always argue and say, oh, well, people called, but they wasn't qualified. But the mere fact that you advertise in Yiddish only is a violation, so that's an example. Other than that, it's not really fraud in the sense that it's just high organization. The fraud also comes in because how they get these buildings are the developers, they make friends with people in the zoning boards, and this is where it gets tricky. They might have backdoor dealings where they got special piece of land to tear down old warehouses. This is what started in the 90s. They'll tear those warehouses down, and then because they got these permits approved and they got special permission to build, What that does is it gives them exclusive rights to that area for cheap. So the fraud can come in if they violated the normal process to get approved to build at certain locations, and they got it for cheap, and they got it by paying these individuals in these committees for permission to build. Other than that, it's just great organization, and I have to give them credit. Outside of the great organization, I think it could be fraud. But the Section 8, definitely. Advertising in one language, fraud. If they can prove that they slid money under the table, process to get the zoning permissions to build, that's fraud. So those are the only two things that I can prove. Other than that, they move well. They move with organization, just like the Asians, and I think they laid a blueprint for people to follow.
Now, what do you think of the solution? Like you say, the market might drop in the next couple of months. What solution will you give people? Will you tell people to save their money? So once the market drop, they be able to purchase properties at lower income, or yeah, what's the solution? That's if the market does collapse, what do you think people should do?
That's what I've been studying now, because, like I said, it's my opinion that a lot of this shit's gonna hit the fan in October. So I've been studying different people to see what to do. Right now, the only thing that I know for sure is stocks. The dude Michael Berry that Big Short was based on, he just got rid of all his banking stocks. So if you read the book and seen the movie, he's the one that called it. Another guy, Peter Schiff, he actually said the movie's based on his predictions. He's also suggesting, and I'm about to subscribe to his newsletter. He's suggesting obviously gold. He's suggesting to purchase stocks and companies in other countries. So I'm still researching right now because I'm shook. This shit is right around the corner. So I figured by July, end of June, I have a more comprehensive approach on what to do. Real estate wise, they're going to be giving these away. I posted another article about Miami. Right now, Miami is so bad now that if you look, they have a bunch of buildings that they were building, and they just stopped midway because banks are no longer lending. They're actually pulling back because the buildings in Miami they've been building so fast that the banks are now pulling back their loans. So now they can't finish, so they're just sitting there. So that's a bubble that's forming in Miami. So that's why I give myself 40 days, and I have a more comprehensive plan on what to do. Right now, I'm just figuring it out because I don't want to miss it.
Guys, don't invest in gold. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I say follow Peter Schiff because he said a lot of interesting things, like the dollar's going to crumble, which is going to make this a different crash. So yeah, like I said, right now I don't have a solid plan because I just got the information and I'm just now seeing signs that everything's going to collapse. Sports Authority just closed. Another major
Over what, 500 stores are gone? They went bankrupt. Am I correct?
Right. Bankrupt, kaput, done. You know, Radio Shack was the first sign, but I brushed that off. But now it's causing a wave.
But Radio Shack been done though. I know Radio Shack hasn't been as popular as it was before, but that Sports Authority collapsing is pretty crazy.
And there was another grocery store. It starts with an F. I forgot the name of it. It was Public. They just closed. So this is the wave, and right now you'll see it. In New York, you're seeing a lot more for sale signs, just like it was. The major cities to tell that the crashes, the major states, you can always tell are the ones that got hit hardest like before. If you look at Florida, Cali.
Florida is always the state. I think Florida is like the telling state. Whatever happens in Florida, I believe happens everywhere else after. Because Florida got hit hard in 2007, 2008.
You see what I'm saying? And Tampa especially.
Oh, yeah.
Florida is the capital of foreclosures. They're the like in terms of even stopping foreclosures, no place is messing with Florida. So even in Florida, you can see that the prices are nuts. It's a high seller's market, but the incomes don't match. and this is just like before, except now it's worse because the dollar is worse. But Peter Schiff, he's a guy that I think he predicted it before, and a lot of stuff he says is on point.
Yeah, I just don't. When it comes to investing in gold, if you look at the long term investment in gold, you only get, I think it was a 5% return in the last 75 years when you invested in gold. And also when the dollar collapsed and everything else collapsed, the last thing somebody wants is a piece of gold. They're gonna want toilet paper. They're gonna want water. They're gonna want things like that. So I think gold. When you look at gold, I think I wouldn't invest in gold. If you look at the track record of gold, it's not really that high of a increase. I think it was only a 5% increase, 5% return on your money in the last 75 years. So it barely hit inflation. So I mean, gold, I don't know. I think you'll make more money selling toilet paper and water. So start collecting toilet paper and water, man.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess that's where me. I'm gonna. Well, gold is so damn expensive, but I would try to get as much personal gold as possible. I think with the crash, it's not so much return. It's about actual assets of value. I think because yeah, I mean the toilet paper, yeah, that's the survival mechanism. But I think well, if anything, if we're gonna go there, I think bullets might be worthwhile more than anything. You know what I'm saying?
In the last 2 or 3 years, gun stores been popping up everywhere, and I see gun stores are making a killing. Not to
Yeah,
sound stupid, not to sound. It's just gun stores are making mad money. If you have the money to open up a gun store in the last couple of years, you'll be raking in so much money right now.
yeah, I agree.
But
But no, I mean, Peter Schiff explains it more. I'm still researching. Because he's saying that like when it does collapse, there's a lot of other things that you can do, not maybe not for return, but kind of, I guess assets or hard assets are going to be worthwhile. Or he said gold stocks even, you know. But like I said, I'm still researching it.
what's that book that came out, The Harbinger or something like that? The Harbinger, where people say, people are reading, a lot of Christians are reading it, and it also predicts like the end of the world type stuff and shit like that. Um, I know real estate is gonna, even itself out, but I think a lot of the stuff is just a lot of scare tactics. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people going broke, just like people been going broke. Even 2007, 2006. You were in the mortgage industry. You know that they were just lending money to everybody. If you had a dog with good credit, you were able to get a loan back then. So, and I just think it has to even itself out, man. I think it got to the point where they're lending too much money and there's not money there to lend anymore.
Well, it's funny you said that because I started studying that the Harbinger and is the Jubilee year, and at first I was like, here's some more Christian shit. But what got me into it was a few things that made sense when they talked about the 7 year cycle,
Hmm.
and that shit was in the Bible. I was like, let me look at that, and then I was like, okay, um, your credit report is based on 7 years. I said, okay, so there has to be some science to that. I actually got the book right here. You know what I mean? But what confirmed it was I was watching the IMF chair, Christine Lagarde, and she dropped a video and she started by saying, how many of you know numerology? I said, what the hell is the IMF president talking about numerology?
Hmm.
And the first 10 or 15 minutes of her speech, she's dropping numerology, like bona fide numerology. So I said, oh shit. And then when you look at the numbers that she was talking about, shit happened. So I said, let me look at this. I was actually a mortgage broker during the other crash, and I slept on it, and it hit everybody by surprise. I missed the .com crash because I was in college, so I'd be damned if I missed the third crash. Not me. I missed two crashes, the .com shit, the housing shit. I'd be damned if I missed this dollar shit because in fact, the houses now are worse in price than when it collapsed.
You think
Bed-Stuy has 56% houses $1 million.
And
No,
wasn't back in the days people were scared to even walk into Bedford-Stuyvesant? Wasn't like Bedford-Stuyvesant like we're not going there.
exactly. I live in Williamsburg, the second most expensive now. Used to be vacant houses, vacant warehouses. That's crazy. This shit's going to fall.
Are you
I
upset
post.
that you didn't have the money to pick up some of that property?
I see sleeping on the bubbles and shit. That's why I can't do it this time. I can't get caught out there. Fuck that. It's happening.
Now,
I'm 100% convinced.
now, with people who want to buy now, you think they should wait
Um,
and rent
yeah,
and rent for now until they see what happens if the bubble does happen, or see what prices are going to do?
I wouldn't do shit. I would stay right where I'm at. I
Because
wouldn't rent or buy.
yeah, because I do real estate here in Florida, and I'm taking a couple of classes, and they were like if you were prospecting 100 people a week, prospect 200 people a week, because the market is just gonna have to shift. It's a shifting market right now, and they say just double everything you're doing. So if you're talking to 100 people, talk to 200 people. If you're doing 30 closings, you have to do 60 closings, because the market is just gonna, the people who don't have the money and the people who haven't been in the industry for years and years and know how to work in the ship, they're gonna be swept out just like any market, you know? So a lot of these people who don't like to prospect and find new business are not gonna be in the real estate industry next year or 2 years from now.
Um, Maybe that's true in Florida. I think because real estate's so horrible now, people are getting wiped out the real estate industry. I say when this shit crashes, you get into this shit. I
Yeah.
think right now is a whack time to do real estate. I'm tired of it.
I was listening to some podcast. He said if you're in real estate right now, you can't sell a house right now, then you're in the wrong industry, because everybody's selling houses. You don't even have to have knowledge of selling houses to really be able to sell right now on this market.
And I disagree with that, hands down.
No, the reason why I believe him is it's so easy right now. I mean, it's so in Florida. I'm talking about Florida. It's so easy to sell a house right now. You could get a listing, Amar, throw some nice pictures, and they'll be gone in 3 days. You don't even have to market it. Especially here in Florida. So I think you don't even have to have a real estate knowledge background to sell homes right now in Florida.
Shit, I wish I was back in Florida then,
If
because
you're in
it's New York
Florida,
City, opposite.
if you're in Florida, you had a car and you knock on doors and get listings, is out there. It's just people are afraid to prospect. People are afraid to knock on doors. People are afraid to talk to people. So if you're not out there talking to people and dealing with people and learning how to negotiate with people, then you're not going to make it in the real estate. But if you have 2 or 3 friends that are selling their homes, you can make a killing in the real estate right now here in Florida.
Word. Well, that's the best place to be.
And it's also the bad place to be when the market drops. So you got the gift and the curse.
Yeah, definitely the gift and the curse. Here,
And the funny, well, before you go, the funny part is, I talked to an investor guy. He used to do 4 deals a month, and right now he's barely doing 1 deal a month
what, in Florida?
in Florida. And the reason why is because it's a seller's market. Basically, you can put a for sale by owner in the front of your home and sell the home yourself. And you don't even have to have knowledge of the neighborhood. You just put a fucking sign outside and sell it yourself.
Word.
So I'm telling you, man, right now, Florida real estate is, if you have a home between 200K and 250K, it'll be gone in 3 days.
That sounds like a dream right there.
It does, and my situation is I was with a team that was doing it. So now that I'm going on my own, I have to build my own shit now. So
I'm saying though, I mean, I would say do it before things shift, you
oh
know?
yeah. I really want to get into the investment side of it, because driving people around and showing them houses is not what I want to do. And, but it'll get there. Now that the market is probably going to settle down and drop a little bit, I think a lot of good real estate will come up. A lot of good deals will be coming up in the next couple of years. So, in my opinion, I'll tell people to save their money and and fix their credit and then buy deals when they have the money when the market drops.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
So
I'm trying to get far as hell from real estate.
that's why I'm getting back into the trading currency, man. Back to trading
Yeah,
currency.
definitely.
Yeah. So man, it was a good podcast, man. A good I think we touched a lot of good subject from politics to music to business. So I think it was the best of all worlds, you know. And I think we did a good podcast, man.
Definitely, man. Again, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Looking forward to next Tuesday. And good job on the videos.
All right then, man. Peace.
Peace.